never know what he's doing. Mace, the meatloaf.
Ma, meatloaf.
Oh, meatloaf, right. I almost nunchucked you, man. It's orange and blue today. That's right.
I didn't want to yell too loud when I did Ma the meatloaf.
I know.
Because where I am right now, there are people across the way, and I don't want them to think I'm yelling at them, right? And I'd like to think they would get the reference to Wedding Crashers. I almost said Old School there.
Yeah.
But you never knew. You never know, right? So
you do never know. They might have gone earmuffs. There's an old school reference. Bring your green hat. Another old school reference.
Yes.
Why do guys talk in movie quotes? Why do we do that, Mace?
Okay, I have a theory on this.
Okay.
What it does is it provides for a common frame of reference sometimes. We've all seen the movie, right? And it kind of helps bridge a gap. It's not just guys. Women do that as well, right? I mean, so there you go. Also, song lyrics. Song lyrics are another big one that gets cited as well, both by me and by others. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, today we have a lot to talk about on Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. The door is open for Russell Wilson. Sean Payton said it. George Paton said it, and I believe he said it twice in about 15 seconds. We've got the clip, Mace. We will play it. But I have to ask you, how much is that door open?
It's not open wide. It's just a teensy bit open. It does certainly rely on a major, profound restructure that I don't think Russell Wilson is going to be, and his side is going to be willing to provide at this point. And the other thing also, I mean, Sean Payton did say he talked with Russell Wilson for a half hour yesterday. Didn't really divulge the details of that conversation, but you get benched for a couple of games. I mean, that it seems like feeling-wise, there's too much to overcome here for this marriage to be saved.
Right. I'm going to play it right off the top. It's 15 seconds, but this was very clear from George Paton. The door is open for Russell Wilson. Here's that beautiful bean footage.
The door remains open with Russ. I've had good conversations with Russ. Sean's had good conversations. The door is open. And so we'll just kind of get through the process. We'll visit as with the coaching staff, scouting staff. We'll visit with Russ and his people, and we'll go from there.
Okay, the door is open, and they've had good conversations. Maybe cooler heads can prevail. Not that anyone was a hothead necessarily. The Broncos asked ad nauseum, Mace. Honestly, you and I were both there. I got a little sick of the Russ questions because they weren't going to give us anything. Mm-hmm. They didn't really give us anything. Greg Penner on Russ, said very professionally. Sean Payton said very professionally. George Paton. They all took not even really the high road, just kind of the PR mode. So they didn't answer that question. And maybe if things work out, if there's a pay cut, that door is open a little bit, but I don't think it's much.
It's not much. And I'd say, PR framing, that's probably the right description of it, because there were a couple of times George Paton was given the opportunity to counter what was said by Russell Wilson a couple of Fridays ago regarding what Wilson described as the threat to bench him if he did not agree to the delaying of the injury guarantee. That was the key clause in the contract. So, I mean, it's what you ever heard the phrase non-denial denial kind of thing? It's something like that.
Right. Something like that. But it certainly got everybody talking about Russell Wilson and the possibility because Mace, honestly, with that salary cap thing looming, we got George Paton talking about the dead money here as well. Yeah. Like just the thought of going into an offseason where you can't participate in free agency much, you can't really keep your own free agents, you don't have the draft assets. Like, man, it would be nice if Russ reworked his deal and they kept him and they lowered that number and they were able to be active. Again, I might be asking for too much, but that would really be the best answer.
It's funny. George Paton, went over the free agency thing, said, it won't be as active in the first wave as last year. Even said something interesting, which is that he's he's looking to add more picks, which is fascinating because Sean Payton's history is trade up and sacrifice picks. George Payton's history is to trade back and accumulate more picks, the more darts theory of drafting. So, the other thing on Russell Wilson is, from his side, what favors does he owe the Broncos, right? I mean, if they've decided that in order for him to stay, there has to be a restructure, why would he agree to that unless the Broncos think, oh, we'll just keep him around as a backup? But we know that's not going to be the wisest thing in terms of team building here, right? You can't have a situation where a backup is on your team and is counting for $85 million. You just had over 2 years. You have to just kind of move on. And then, of course, there's the fifth day of the league year guarantee, the extra $37 million. So the door is open, but what it's implying is the door is open if Russell Wilson wants to make some adjustments. And I don't think he's particularly inclined to do that.
Yeah, he's not inclined to do that. And any sort of feelers out there, because we talked about the Russell Wilson odds a week ago or whatever, Mace, maybe 2 weeks ago. Like, you probably put feelers out if you're Mark Rodgers. What would the Steelers be interested in? What would the Patriots, as I think they've kept Belichick? I don't know. I was at Starbucks. This news today is so hot with the Vrabel thing, right? Like, okay, so I think Belichick's okay. But like New England, Pittsburgh, maybe Atlanta, any of those teams, I'm sure there's no tampering in the NFL at all. But I'm sure that feelers are being put out, Mace. And maybe that would signal like, oh, I'm getting a good feeling about Pittsburgh. Forget them guys. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's going to come to pass over the next several weeks, right? They'll probably these things will go down over some cocktails in Indianapolis at the scouting combine. Hey, that's how the deal for Russell Wilson went down just under 2 years ago. It was a meeting at, I believe, a Low Miller's bar in downtown Indianapolis.
Tiny little bar. Tiny.
Oh yeah, a complete little English pub, hole in the wall. It's not very far away. That's the thing. It's hard to find, but it's right there in where all the hotels are. Put it this way, it's more along the beaten path than Prime 47, which is where everybody gathers, right? Like that's sort of that's the it place now at the combine. But yeah, that is where the deal went down. Somewhere there is the napkin of the terms of that deal that were written down. If the trade had worked out, that would have been all-time Broncos piece of memorabilia if they ever do kind of build a Broncos Hall of Fame museum, kind of like they have, with the Green Bay Packers up at Lambeau Field. Alas, it's just going to be that napkin is just going to be a footnote.
It's just going to be a napkin.
I mean,
File 13.
Where we've been in the last 12 months.
Yeah, where we've been has been amazing. Mace will jump back on here in a little bit. You know how it goes. We're doing a live show, everybody. Yeah.
What happened?
Hey, you're back. It's a live show. Wi-Fi
I didn't
dropped
lose you at all. Like, it was weird. I didn't lose you at all. It's like, then you're like, okay, he's gone. Oh,
I never lose you in my heart, Mace. So we're good there. A heartfelt moment. I choose
another shared moment.
Another shared moment. Orange and blue today. You want me to play the Payton clip about the dead money? Because he's very succinct in what he says here.
Yeah, this is something that I think is probably more relevant than the door being open. Let's play it.
All right, here we go.
Obviously, any dead money, obviously this would be extreme. We've prepared for any scenario, with Rich Hurtado, who runs our cap, and we'll have flexibility either way to do what we need to do. We're not going to be on the first wave of free agency like we were last year. You can't do that every year. We'll be very strategic, very specific on what positions, what players, we try to sign. And then obviously we got to hit on the draft. We're picking high, and we have 6 picks. We could have more. We like picks, and we'll go from there.
We like picks.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. Get more. Like picks. I know we were sort of joking at one point, like, George Paton talks about kind of finding a chord with Sean Payton. Like, is it, the two of them coming together and finding the players on whom the Venn diagram crosses over, or is it more, Sean Payton suggesting something and George Payton saying, okay, yeah, I'm down with that. I think it's a little bit. I think it depends on the situation. I think when it comes to back end of the draft, guys, you're talking about. That's where George Payton comes in, right? Top of the draft, you're talking more Sean Payton. Yeah, they do need some more darts. And the thing is, the more darts theory may actually come into play with the cap planning, because that's where you talk about draft picks, right?
Right.
Getting them for veterans. Are Bronco players going to be on the trade market if you're trying to get into cap compliance? And if that's the case, that's a way to pick up additional draft picks. There's more to talk about with going young with players. We're going to get into that later. But they're basically telegraphing here, I think, that this is that there may be some degree of resetting in the offseason. Look, I was in the locker room last week. You were in the locker room last week. I was in the locker room on Sunday. We were both in the locker room on Monday. When you're hearing, players like Garrett Bowles, Lloyd Cushenberry, Justin Simmons, Josie Jewell, with Cush and Jewell expiring contracts. Garrett Bowles, you can gain $16 million of cap room if you trade or cut him. Ditto for Justin Simmons, and Bowles, Jewell, and Simmons being guys who've played at least 6 years for this team. And they're all talking in terms of, if we might be back. Justin Simmons sounded very reflective. They all say they want to be back, but it's like there's an acceptance of a reality in which they're not a part of the Broncos going forward.
Right.
And that appears to be part of the cap planning that's going on.
And in an exit interview, they might have been told something. You know what I mean? So, we've gathered some clues. I think we got a lot of clues today.
Yeah.
Are they truly on the same page, George Paton and Sean Payton? Because they said it. I seen it. You were there. Like, they keep saying we're on the same page. Everybody's on the same page. And I do have the rookie class video uploaded, Mace. So off-air conversation. But that is ready to go for us, because it's part of the conversation. Because if I'm George Paton, knowing that with limited picks, you could have used Riley Moss playing, JL Skinner playing, Thomas and Kuhn playing, you needed to have those guys not be as green as they will be next year, because they either didn't play like in Kuhn or barely played like Riley Moss, JL Skinner, or any of these guys that we need to see for the future. So are they really on the same page when the plan should have been, hey, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. Let's play the young guys.
Yeah. It's a good point, and that's where you look at the last couple of weeks, especially. We talked about it that, you're trying to win, and that Charger game you went in, you were still in the playoff race, nominally speaking. But when you're talking, there's George Paton is getting up there, and we're going to play the quote talking about, okay, we learned about these guys on the practice field. Yeah, but there's nothing like game reps. There's nothing like game reps for getting these guys up and ready. So let's. I'm processing here. I'm talking and I'm processing at the same time. And one of the things I'm processing here, Cecil, is this: with Drew Sanders, even though he did play and start in Chicago in Week 4, but Drew Sanders, Riley Moss, Alex Forsythe, if he replaces Lloyd Cushenberry, I mean that was one that a lot of Bronco fans heard today and said, "Whoa!" Like saying. It's like bye-bye Lloyd Cushenberry, probably, because they may be handing the job to Forsythe. And I think you and I have both gotten that indication this year that Forsythe was a center in waiting, even though he did not play a snap. So you got Forsythe, you've got Moss, you've got Sanders. George Paton was even talking up JL Skinner today, and he could barely get on the field. We're going to have a lot more on JL Skinner here. May not be this week, some point in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
But we may do an entire show on JL Skinner. There's some fascinating stuff going on there. But you could have them. You could have whatever draft picks are starting right away, a first-round pick. If you do trade a veteran for a second-round pick, like a Cortland Sutton or Justin Simmons, perhaps, you might be looking at effectively either he might have 2 or 3 rookies, but then 3 more guys who are effectively rookies because they barely played this past year in the starting lineup. This could be a very young team out of necessity because of what they're facing cap-wise.
And you could have nipped it in the bud or given them a head start had you played them a little bit more. It's just science. There's another reference. Must be a Will Ferrell type of day, but let's play this George Paton clip talking about that good rookie class. Here's the Broncos GM.
I think it's a really good rookie class. You didn't see it on Sundays all the time. We see it in practice. Obviously, Marvin Mims, had a Pro Bowl year as a returner. Work in progress as a receiver, but he had some really big moments. Riley Moss, we feel, is a starter in this league, and he was, one of our best special team players, if not our best. And we see it in practice. We see the cover skills, and we see the transition quicks, the toughness, and the instincts. You saw it a little bit in game. He played a little bit of the dime role. Drew Sanders, same. Big upside. He played inside. He played outside. Started coming on late in the year, and it was really good on special teams. I'll probably leave someone out, but J.L. Skinner got an opportunity this past week and excelled on teams. We see it in practice, the range, the physicality. Scout team player of the week multiple times. And then Alex Forsythe, we feel he's a starter in this league at center. And then you look at the free agent class, college free, Jaleel McLaughlin, Nate Atkins, and then there's a number of others that we feel can play. And so, much like some of the others, McMillan, J-Mac McMillan, who first year got to play in the last game and then grew the entire offseason. When he got his chance, he excelled. We feel there's a number of the players in this class that can make that jump as well.
Okay, we're waiting for them to make that jump. To quote David Lee Roth, Mace, might as well jump.
Pre-Van Hagar, I like it.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yes. I would like to see it because we saw it with the Rams. When you hit on picks, and it's more than just Puka Nacua, but when you hit on picks, they can make significant plays for and for the Rams. Part of the reason why they make that playoff run, what do they got? 3-4 rookies making huge plays. Kyron Williams, young player, making huge plays for that team. You drafted well, Les Snead, one of the best GMs out there, in my opinion.
I'm going to make another David Lee Roth Van Halen reference because the Rams, living life like there was no tomorrow, what they got, they had to steal. They had to steal it in the draft. You're talking about steals up and down the draft, and that's how the Rams got running with the devil all the way back to the playoffs. But they had faith. One of the reasons they got draft steals is they pushed those guys out there. They lived with the mistakes. And this is the other thing. You've got to be patient, right? You've got to be patient with it. You have to live with the bumps.
Yep.
You have to live with the mistakes. And if you look at the Rams early this season, boy, they were living with a lot of mistakes. By the back half of the season, it was popping. Their record might have been even better, and they may have pushed for the division title if they had not lost Matthew Stafford for a few games at midseason and had to play Brett Rippon. Because that was about the time that the team was coming together.
Yep.
But, it got delayed a little bit. But that's what it may have to look like, Cease, for the Broncos next year. It may look like a lot of young players having to grow together. And that might be tough for Sean Payton because, Sean's not the most patient coach and he likes his veterans. But at the same time, you go back to 2017, he didn't play all the rookies, but he did play a bunch of them. And that helped turn the Saints around from 3 straight 7-9 years to the first of 5 consecutive winning seasons before he left for the broadcast booth.
That's why I hate when Mike Evans says the draft is a crapshoot. It is not. You need to hit. It's not a science. It's not an exact science. But there's an art to the draft, and we need George Paton to be Picasso.
Yeah.
Michelangelo. Name your artist. Todd McFarlane.
And what would you say he's been to this point? Because I don't think he's been Picasso. I don't think he's been Renoir. I don't think he's been Van Gogh. Although maybe there are some of the picks You maybe look at a couple of picks in the 4th round of 2022 that make you want to cut part of your ear off.
Right.
I don't know. Like, that's a good question. What level of artist? Is he?
I'll be nice because George made sure to say hi to me today.
He did. Like he
Hi, Cecil.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm sure George knows my opinion about George, which is fine. We're all big boys here.
Mhm.
Mace, he says that he knows the type of quarterback Sean Payton wants. I asked him specifically about the national championship game. I did mention Michael Penix and
Yeah.
slightly JJ McCarthy. He did not answer me on that. Is there anything to take away from that, or it's kind of cheating by me? And honestly, I think maybe my second question kind of messed up my first question, but either way, like, he's probably not going to say much, but he didn't say anything about Penix or McCarthy when I specifically asked him about that.
Well, he's not going to tip his hand, right? I mean, George Payton's very good at sometimes not saying very much, especially in regard to draft prospects. Look, he knows the score. Everyone knows the deal. I also think this. He knows what type of quarterback Sean Payton may like, but they're still learning about this, right? Because you haven't gotten them at the whiteboard yet. That's what's going to happen. It'll probably start happening in Mobile, because like the kind of the big secret of all of this in terms of the pre-draft process is now you can get a huge jump on the interviews at the Senior Bowl and get them out of the way then, and then go on to the Combine and interview other players. And so really you can start that, if you really want, you can start that whiteboard process and that evaluation process down in Mobile here in a few weeks.
Yep.
And then go on, maybe you do some guys there, you do some when you get to the Combine as well. And then you have some top 30 visits with guys. You go to their pro days. That's why I think maybe it's Sean Payton doesn't have all the information yet. Payton admits he does not watch a lot of college football when he's in an NFL season. He's probably about to start watching a lot of these guys once he gets through the evaluation of his own team, right?
Yes.
So by the way, shout out to all the live audience. We got a huge live audience checking in right now, all over the place. This is one of the biggest that I've seen, maybe the biggest that I've seen. So
yeah, lots going on in Broncos country, that's for sure. And we appreciate you for participating with us. Your time is your most precious asset. You spend time and you pay attention. It's our number one asset. We appreciate you for spending time with us. Mace, we've got another show. We are going to have multiple orange and blue OBT2. What are we going after dark? I don't know. We're conflicting here.
Today it's
after
put
dark out a poll
because we're doing radio today as well.
Yeah, so that will be up on YouTube later tonight, probably around 8.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit later. But anyway, so
if you want to listen live and even watch live, because of course the live stream is on at denversports.com.
Right.
So you can watch it there. You can also listen if you're in the Denver market on 104.3 on the FM dial, but you can also go to the Denver Sports app and listen to us live. If you can watch us on the website, you can listen to us on the app, and then we'll have the show up in bursts on YouTube later on tonight. But yeah, Cecil and I are doing Denver Sports tonight because we realized, like, Cecil was going to do it himself, and I'm like, we got a lot to say. Let's just make that orange OBT2 today in the studio. So that's what we're doing.
There we go. He is Andrew Mason. You make sure to follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver, and make sure you help us out on YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell
so that you never
miss a vid. That's right.
Oh my gosh, like our timing was really, I think our timing wasn't bad with the Dikembe Mutombo finger wag there.
Right. It's like synchronized swimming. Anyway, he's Mace, I'm Cease. OBT's a BFD. We appreciate you all. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please, as always, go ahead and stay frosty,